Okay, then we will call the meeting to order. This is June 15, 2026. It's the time and the place for the second regular board meeting for the Marshalltown Community School District. Welcome to all of you joining us here this evening. Welcome as well to anybody who might be watching on the live stream or at a later date or time. We'll do some quick announcements. We've got a pink sign-up sheet there for anyone who wants to address the board during public comment time. You will be given 5 minutes to speak to the board. Please understand that Iowa law prohibits the discussion of specific employees of the district or their job performance. Also, in accordance with board policy, board members will not respond to comments so that we can comply with open meeting laws. We'll do some introductions next. We'll start to my right, board members Zach Wall and Elizabeth Wise. To my left, Leah Stanley, Eric Goslinga, and Sarah Faltis. Immediately to my left is Dr. Theron Schutte, the superintendent of schools. To my right, Mr. Randy Denham, our board secretary. And I am Sean Heitman. Did I get them all, Randy? Got them. Okay, with those preliminary items out of the way, would you all please join me in reading the mission statement of the Marshalltown Community School District? We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. And please stand as you're able and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
There are not.
Then is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Faltis, Stanley, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Abby.
I don't know if I'm supposed to read this first recognition or if. Okey-dokey. So for the first recognition tonight, the Marshalltown Community School District Communications Department recently received 2 awards of merit from the National School Public Relations Association, also known as NSPRA, as part of its 2026 Publication and Digital Media Awards program. This awards program recognizes outstanding tactical communication materials, including publications, newsletters, videos, podcasts, websites, social media content, and more. Both Marshalltown Community School District entries were recognized in the photography category. In addition to receiving the awards, the district will be recognized during the NSPRA's Celebration of Achievement at its national conference on Sunday, July 19th, and both winning entries will be featured in a display at the event.
And we have printouts of the recognitions, so congratulations, Abby.
Thanks.
Abby did invite the subjects of the photos to attend, but we didn't hear back from them.
Well deserved.
Thank you. It was cool with one of the photos that received the awards. The family that I wanted here tonight, the preschool teacher reached out and she said, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but they have never had this good of a photo of their child before. So it means a lot to them. That photo as well was used for a lot of our preschool sign-up materials as well. So seeing that on a lot of different printed items meant a lot to them. They asked Fisher Elementary, where the little guy was attending, if they could have quite a few posters, just to frame and have afterwards. So I'm working on getting them their own personalized copy to have at home. So yeah, it's been fun seeing both of those photos. And then I saw on the district Facebook side, since the other photo is Osmar, quite a familiar face in this district, his celebration and saying, yeah, that's awesome to see going into it. So yeah. Okay, junior achievement. If you guys want to come up. Junior Achievement of Central Iowa President Ryan Osborne will be presenting Marshalltown Community School District with the recognition of JA School District of the Year Award for 2025-2026. This is in recognition of our strong partnership with JAK1 and in recognition of their inaugural 3DE school district. So I'll pass it off, say a few words.
K-12, I think. Might be a typo.
Oh, sorry about that.
K-12 for sure. Thank you for having me, Ryan Osborne, for your achievement. Really happy to be here in front of the board again. And I was driving in the parking lot this evening and kind of had a flashback to about 8 or 9 years ago when I was unloading some elementary kits from the back of my car when we were first starting getting this partnership going, starting at the elementary level and then built it up to the middle school, and then of course this past year with 3DE starting at the high school. Thought I'd just start off by reading a few stats that really kind of made up this recognition this year, Marshalltown being our Junior Achievement District of the Year. There was 114 learning experiences and programs that the Marshalltown students experienced across K-12 this year. 3,301 students experienced junior achievement here in the district. 64,595 instructional hours with junior achievement programming here in the district. And certainly over 100 volunteers for parents and the community members. And then of course, Dr. Schutte, his involvement as a co-chair of our Education Workforce Committee, leading the way with other superintendents here in the region. And of course, as Abby mentioned, celebrating the first year of Marshalltown High School being our first 3DE high school in the region here in central Iowa, which has been really a tremendous partnership. Behind me, my colleague Karina, which many of you of course know, just done a great job as our school implementation manager this year. Her colleague Caitlin Peters as well, working with the Marshalltown High School teachers. Just been a great partnership there. And, local companies, Mechdyne, Marshalltown Company, and then F&G from the Des Moines area were some of the business partners, in addition to the national companies, Valera, Arby's, and Delta. So all 6 of those companies, the students got to experience a case challenge round. And Mr. Petey and the launch teacher, on and on and on, Dr. Smith and her partnership. It's just been across the board, just really fantastic. And so for those reasons and many more, we decided that we would recognize Marshalltown Community School District with our 2025-26 School District of the Year. So thank you very much.
And the first double winner, right?
First double winner, absolutely.
Where's Shawnee? Oh, there. Come on up here. Karina, come on up here.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Great couple.
That's what we got in the box. We'll put it back in the box for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we're going to show the video too.
Oh, yes. Yes, there is a video.
3DE stands for Three Dimensions of Education, which is a partnership with Junior Achievement, local businesses, and the school district. It is a project-based learning program. The projects are provided by the local business.
3DE aligns with Marshalltown's mission because 3D promotes the diversity of all voices.
3DE works together with the company and presents to us, the students, a case challenge, and every single time we'll have a new group that we kind of work with to figure out the solution to a problem.
It's more hands-on work than all the just sitting on a computer in your classroom all day. It's like cooperating with your groups, doing a bunch of projects and everything.
When you see them working hand in hand on a coaching day where the business comes in, you see that business getting right in there with the students, and the students are completely engaged with them. It's kind of an eye-opening experience for both the business partner and the student as well.
My confidence at the beginning wasn't as much as right now to get an idea of what they're aiming for.
Once you actually start taking it pretty seriously, it is really fun to do. And I've been able to work better with my teammates because of it.
The kids have improved with their presentation skills and their design of their slides and things like that. It's become a competition for them, and they celebrate the win. You hear the auditorium erupt with cheers when the winning team is announced.
This program is creating a whole student who is ready to be a citizen of the real world, which is really powerful.
They may not recognize the student when they walk in their door, but as soon as the student says 3DE, these businesses know that these students have gone through a rigorous program.
So I want to thank Abby for working with Donovan, was it Donovan Group, to create that last fall, I think it was, between particularly Shauna and I and others. We were no matter how you tried to summarize the program to explain it to people, it was just hard for people to wrap their heads around. As you probably remember when we first started talking about it, so we thought it would be great during the first year to create a video that could help people see what the program was about, both internally as we recruit students and families while they're at Miller, but then I think it's also probably beneficial for other districts to see what we've created if they're considering it. So good job, Abby. And thanks for coming up, Ryan.
Okay, now we need to open the public hearing regarding approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost for the Miller Middle School Technology, AV, and Security Project. Is there anyone here who would like to comment on that? Randy, were any written comments received?
There were not.
Okay, then with that, I will close the public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated costs for the Miller Middle School Technology and AV project. And we will move to the consent agenda, where we've got minutes from the June 1st meeting. Jackie, are there any items of note in personnel? No? Okay. We've got a number of interagency agreements and contracts, a bid proposal from Flynn Restaurant Group to the school district for the National School Lunch Program compliant pizzas for the 26-27 school year. Renewal contracts with Lofredo Fresh Produce, with Martin Brothers, and with Panna Gold Bakery for another year for all of those providers. A cooperative agreement with Iowa State University and the school district to provide supervised clinical student teaching experiences. A quote agreement with Renaissance Learning and the school district for a one-year subscription to FastBridge. A contract with Central Rivers AEA for the transfer of 90% of funds for special education support services for the upcoming school year. An agreement with Central Rivers AEA for special education dashboard reporting and special education professional development services. An amendment with the Iowa Local Government Risk Pool for the addition of a gas meter at the high school, not included in the original agreement. An agreement with the Iowa Department of Human Services for state Medicaid services, and a memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Vets Home to allow the Iowa Vets Home to utilize district facilities in the event of an emergency. Are there questions about any of those contracts or agreements? We've also got special education agreements with Fort Dodge and with Cedar Rapids. Looking at open enrollments, we have one in for the upcoming school year. Randy, are there any items or any things to note in bills or in the monthly financials?
There's not.
Any questions for Randy regarding the bills or the monthly financials? Then is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Faultus, Wise? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Nobody's on the pink sheet. Stacy, you ready?
Well, I'm already a little vertically challenged, so I take this out. All right. Good evening. I'm Stacy Toole Crawford, the district lead nurse for the Marshalltown Schools. I'm going to share a quick overview of our district health services and how we've supported students this year, keeping them healthy, safe, and able to stay in school and ready to learn. So our key areas of focus are right up here: the student health needs and district trends, chronic conditions and health office care, student health plans and required compliance supports, prevention, education, and health promotion, operational systems, and community partnerships. So this is pretty self-explanatory here. Our district enrollment, this is what we got from Infinite Campus. This is pretty standard for us. We're usually somewhere between 45 to 50% of our students have reported chronic health condition. This can range from just, visual impairments to some of our more more detailed diagnosis. But generally, this is pretty standard for us, about 51% of our students. So we'll move on to the next slide. So this breaks it down a little bit more. We use these diagnoses to report on because the National Association of School Nurses advises these are the ones that we should be tracking. I did go ahead and I got the numbers put on here. So it's it's last year's compared to this year's. And as you can see, most all of them kind of have trended up a little. The one that's the most obvious is the developmental delays. And I think really the reason that is seeing, an increase, it may be related to how the information is captured in Infinite Campus. The diagnostic categories are broad, and there are a number of different diagnoses that can fall under this grouping. As we kind of have refined how we pull and review the data, more of these conditions are being included in the totals. It may also reflect actual increased reporting by families during online registration as diagnoses are updated and entered more consistently. So, again, just a small trend in all of them. That was the one that seemed to be the most significant, but I truly believe that's probably what it is the way we're capturing it. Again, developmental delays is pretty broad, so it covers lots of the smaller diagnoses that we put into that developmental delay category. All right, health office visits by building. Pretty self-explanatory here as well. You see our smaller buildings obviously see less, even though some of our elementaries do have pretty significant numbers of health office visits, basically based on those, acute chronic conditions. And you can see that more, especially with Fisher and Franklin. And then, of course, our secondary buildings, Lenahan, Miller, and the high school, we see significant health office numbers based on our, our enrollments being so much higher as well. All right, we can go to the next one. So yeah, a whopping 75,538 visits total. The number we sent home, 1606. So we are able to keep about 98% of our students here at school. And, you know, a key part of that outcome is having a nurse available to assess students, make clinical decisions, and determine appropriate care so that most students can safely return to class. We can go to the next slide. Okay, yeah, immunization compliance is 100% district-wide. Nurses work closely with families, providers, and Marshall County Public Health to ensure students are up to date on required vaccines, provide education on vaccine importance, and we follow state guidelines for waivers when needed. We're always very proud of that compliance as well. And then the EHPs, which is our emergency health plans and our 504 plans, they vary by building, obviously depending on student population and student health needs. Some buildings, again, have more students with complex conditions. Nurses create the emergency health plans for students who may need emergency or specialized care, such as diabetics, seizure disorders, severe allergies, asthma, cardiac conditions, and other similar needs. And as you can see, you know, we do have an increase in those in our, like in the middle school and the high school. And I think the reason that we have more of the 504s in that secondary level is because I think that's when our classes are getting harder and kids are realizing, maybe based on a diagnosis, whether it be ADHD or anxiety, that they may need some accommodations in the classrooms, you know, to help them be successful. So I think that's why we see such increased number in those 504 plans. Nurses are involved with the 504s, especially if they are specific health, if those students have specific health needs. We're there to help support whatever accommodations they may need and give any recommendations that way as well. Right, we can go to the next slide. Okay, yep, so health education and prevention. Again, nurses help to provide that student education, our fourth grade changing body in the elementaries, and also the nurses in the elementaries are involved in that K-4 health curriculum that they help to provide as well. At the high school, I help to facilitate that sexual health. CAPS comes into our PE classes and they do an amazing job with that education up there. I do go in to the health classes at the high school and provide some hygiene information, as well as I do also go into our child development class and provide some first aid training for infants and children and pregnant women. So that happens at the high school. And also we're always excited to have our health fair that we have at the high school in the springtime, and we collaborate with local agencies to come in and provide health and safety information for our students, and it's always very well attended, and the kids look forward to it. And then, of course, our staff trainings, CPR. One of our nurses, who actually is retiring this year, she does provide the CPR training for our district. And then also in each building, the nurse is responsible for helping to coordinate her cardiac emergency response teams. We also do EpiPen and seizure training for our staff at the beginning of the school year as well. And then...
Question about under the education piece, so I don't see 5th through 8th represented there. I know we've got a middle school health class that a teacher teaches. I'm not sure, like at Lenahan, 5th and 6th grade.
And at Lenahan, we actually, so the nurse does not provide that, but Micah and CAPS, they also provide some sexual health and just health curriculum for that at Lenahan. Yep, that's a good question. Thank you for asking that. Yep. All right. And then Medicaid billing, we're working with a new third-party biller this year, ClaimAid, and it seems to have been a really smooth transition. The specialist that we work with, Nonya, she's done a great job and has answered a lot of questions for us. So the nurses work with their special education teachers and paras in their buildings, and they help to coordinate the billing for students for health purposes or for behavior. And so the nurses do take took that time to help get that all set up in the fall, and then have to do the follow-ups each month when we do post our billing for claim aid. So 117 students this year is what we billed on. And then the nurses are all actively participating on building attendance teams. In some buildings, they conduct home visits for students with health-related absenteeism. They collaborate with families and students chronically absent due to medical conditions. I would like to implement a tracking system, which we haven't done that yet. I really would like to do that so we can track to see how many times a nurse has had to be involved for attendance. I do know it's quite a bit, to be really honest with you. We've never really set anything up, though, to track that, and that is something that I would really like to do so that we can get some more comprehensive data to support the interventions that we have tried. A lot of phone calls, again, I think are made, as well as, at the high school, we do the attendance meetings where we meet individually with our students and families to try to figure out, and the nurses involved, obviously, we get invited to those if it's health related. So, yes.
Do those get entered into Infinite Campus?
Yes.
Like if there's a one-on-one meeting with a parent
Yep.
or a home visit
Yep.
or?
We would enter that just in our documentation, under the health portal. So I'm not sure that could be pulled. So I want to talk to Dave to get that figured out, how we can track better. Because I'm sure Infinite Campus is amazing, and I'm sure there is a way that we can trigger that so that we can just pull that off there. Yep. All right. And this was our health office staff for this year, and it's going to look very similar next year, except for we won't have our float nurse next year, but we're working closely, Annelle and I and the nurse group. We have some other plans that we're looking at, doing some pairing in our offices with our buildings. Let's see. So we're using building pairings and cross-training to maintain coverage across the district. So, keeping our priority always remaining consistent, supporting our students' health so they can be at school and to learn. All right, and then the next slide, please. All right, community partnerships. So again, we are very fortunate to work with our community partners in assisting us with some of our screenings that are required. Dental, MICA, the iSmile program, they come in and they do those. They do dental screens for kindergartners and for freshmen, and then they do still some of the sealants at the elementary schools as well. For vision, we still partner with the Iowa Kids site and the Lions Club, and they come in and they work with our preschool and kindergartners. And AEA, now that is a little more restricted now. They just come in for our identified hearing loss, our students that have been already identified as having hearing loss, and they come in for that. They, of course, it's limited a little bit as well, as far as if we notice a student is having a hearing issue, we would likely speak to the family, and they may be referred to their provider instead of AEA at this point. But we certainly do, work with GHOST students as well. And our vaccines, we work closely with Marshall County Public Health. They help to provide the VFC, the Vaccines for Children's vaccines for us, and those are for students that qualify. They either have Medicaid or they have no insurance, so they work closely with us as well. And then for our health education, as I already mentioned, CAPS and MICA, they definitely have been very significant partners for us through the years. And then obviously we use many other community health and safety resources for that MHS Health Fair. The only other thing I was going to mention in this as well, so for dental and vision, we do have programs that through the school district here that has been funded through grants that have been obtained through the nursing department from like STEP grant, and we've had Rotary in the past. And so we have a dental and a vision program. And the dental program, we work with First Street Dental, and they wonderfully, graciously provide the services for our students that have been identified through us, and we've partnered, to get them there, and they provide their care at Medicaid rates, which is very much reduced rate for us. So they work with us closely for that. And then for Vision, Eye Care Associates has partnered with us. And so if we have students that are identified that have no insurance and they, are not able to get in for a vision exam and possibly glasses, Eye Care Associate works with us, and we use that grant money to help fund that as well. So we're very fortunate to have both of those programs in the district as well. All right. All right. Any questions for me? No?
I noticed when you showed the schools and the office visits, Franklin and Fisher had the highest number. Would that be directly related to the level 2 and level 3 programs that are in
Yes.
those buildings?
Yep. Yes. And, yes, that's exactly right. Mm-hmm. So you see those higher numbers. Higher acuity as well of those students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there's no questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Okay, I am here for Jennifer and Brian. I believe last time we were here, we shared the presentation for the health curriculum proposal, and tonight we are seeking approval for a 1 year approval to use the curriculum for 1 year, and we're wanting to use Title IV dollars to pay for the purchase. So I'm here for any questions that you might have.
I assume nothing has changed in the recommendation in the proposal from 2 weeks ago, right, Shauna?
That's correct.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
No, I think all my questions were answered last time.
Then is there a motion to approve the purchase of the 26-27 7 through 12 health curriculum as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Guzlinga Stanley? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the 2026-2027 district legislative priorities, thank all of you for participating in that poll. It resulted in a very similar result as what we had last year in terms of both the priority items and the order of the priority. Preschool and teacher recruitment and licensure both tied, and I would recommend that we stay with preschool being that fourth priority, only because I've heard from multiple representatives of the organizations that lobby for us that they really feel like we're getting close to getting that accomplished with the legislature, which would be huge for our district if we had, even for the families that would qualify based on financial means, the ability to have full-day preschool. I really think it'd be a game changer for us in terms of kindergarten readiness. Not to lessen the importance of teacher recruitment and licensure, because as Jackie has shared, that continues to be a challenge for us, but there have been movements over time in the legislature in that arena, and I don't think that's going to fall off the radar either in terms of trying to figure out particularly how to increase the opportunity to get science and math teachers, I think for sure, because that's a huge scarcity area right now. But I would recommend that we stick with the same platform that we had last year, knowing that even though we're only submitting 4 of the 5 to ISB, we're going to advocate for all of them. So.
Any comments?
Just for the record, again, supplemental state aid, school funding, local control, which it doesn't feel like we have much right now. Youth mental health, ongoing huge concern, preschool, and teacher recruitment and licensure. Would be the 5.
Okay, then, if there's nothing else, that's what we'll submit as our legislative priorities. Jackie, you want to come talk about handbooks?
We need to approve those priorities.
Oh, hold on a second, Jackie. Is there a motion to approve the 26-27 legislative priorities as presented?
Move for approval.
Second.
Faltus, Wise. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, now Jackie, do you want to talk about employee handbooks?
Absolutely. On June 1st, I presented 8 lovely handbooks that our staff reference regularly throughout the years. They helped learn more about the rules and regulations per the board policy. So this week, we're just looking to finalize that and get board approval.
Same as they were 2 weeks ago, Jackie. You didn't make any
Correct.
changes in the interim.
Nope, they're
Okay.
still red and yellow.
Anybody have any questions for Jackie? Well, I would just say I appreciate the effort that goes into this on an annual and more often than that basis, right? Keeping things up to date and making the appropriate changes.
Yes,
So
every time the board makes a change to a policy, we have to
you have to update your handbook. Yep. So if there are no other questions, is there a motion to approve the 26-27 employee handbook and appendices as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Wise, Faltus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Adam, you're just in time. Well done. And just so you know, that microphone is not on, so you got to turn it on. That's all. There you go.
Good evening. This is for the Franklin parking lot project. The contract you have in front of you is for Construct Inc. of Marshalltown. Again, this is for the base bid in the amount of $359,395. The bid alternate was not selected. The base bid stands alone as a complete functional project. This is consistent with the bid tab and the award recommendation at the last meeting.
Questions for Adam? I don't remember, Adam. When are they starting?
So the notice of award is essentially, the notice to proceed is effective essentially after the approval of the contracts. I did talk to them last week. They anticipate starting within the next week or so. And it does have a completion date, again, of August 14th, so that it's ready in time for school.
As the board knows, we're fully engaged with them as one of the subcontractors for the Miller project, and we hired them to do, in collaboration with the city, the Orpheum parking lot, which they did a marvelous job of that. So we were super excited to see their interest in this project.
We also worked on the high school rebuild last year. Parking lot rebuild, sorry.
Yep. Okay, is there a motion to approve the contract with Construct for the Franklin Field parking lot project as presented?
So moved. Second.
That's Faltus, Stanley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Pete, are you doing these change orders?
I am.
You are, yep.
We've got an audience back there. They're pretty... There it is. All right. Well, good evening. So it's been a while since I've been here with you. I know you've met some of my teammates and folks that are on the Miller Middle School project team. And today I brought my, as Abby warmly pointed out, I brought my therapy cooler with me. Instead of a therapy puppy, I carry a therapy cooler. So, and there was stuff in it. So please, you're welcome to that. So tonight I wanted to come before you and just present to you the change orders and the information that's in your agenda. So a couple of these items are items that were in the initial scope of work for the project. However, when we set up the budget strategy anticipating variances on bid day, we set up add alternate bids. And some of these are that. And essentially, they were included in the project, but they're within the project budget. We're just executing formally, getting those projects under contract, right? So change order number 5 was alternate number 4 in the bid documents. And essentially what that is it's adding limestone benches to the south courtyard. Again, that was in the initial scope of work. We just packaged it slightly differently so that we could anticipate variances on bid day. Change order number 1, that one is a credit change order to the district. In working with the subcontractors, we realized that there was glazing modification that was they suggested be made. And essentially what it is it takes away the low E certification on the glass, which generally is an exterior glass treatment. These windows are inboard interior, so that low E glass is not required inboard. So that is a credit to the district. Change order number 3, that's the addition of a fiber optic rack and certainly that is something that your technology director could speak more to. Essentially what that is that's an add scope item that is being introduced to protect the fiber cabling as it comes into the building. So there wasn't, the way it was being brought into the building didn't offer adequate protection for that routing, and with the type of technology that holds, we want to make sure that's got adequate protection, and that's what that rack is generally intended to do. Change order number 4 is the again an alternate that was identified in the construction documents, and that is a renovation and expansion in the lower level restrooms of area A. So that would be upgrading or updating the existing condition of those toilet rooms. So, all of those are, with exception of change order number 3, all of the others are, again, within the documents that we discussed initially. Number 1 is a credit to you, and the others are part of the bid documents as before. So, any questions on that?
Where is Area A?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that. When I said it, I knew you were going to ask. So Area A is closer to the, I believe, the competition gym.
Okay.
So it would be the toilet rooms that are down in that area.
Okay.
It's the 2005 edition there.
Yep, the restrooms outside of the gym area. Okay.
I noticed on there it talked about HVAC around that area. I know from past experiences we've had issues with the HVAC in that area. Does that solve the problem?
So part of, the renovation or that, the toilet room specifically or other parts?
By the concession area?
Yeah.
Over in that area.
Yeah, so there is some, based on the contractors that I see here involved, there is some mechanical rework or improvements that'll be done. Zach, I don't know exactly the entire scope of their work, but I do see them on the list here for work to be done there. We can get you a more detailed scope if you'd like.
Well, I'm confident that the whole building is going to be under one versus 3 different HVAC systems when it's all said and done, so it's going to be improved.
Yeah, that's correct.
Might be 4 HVAC systems. It's either 3 or 4, I can't remember.
You have several. Over the course of 107
3.
years, you've...
3 different climatic zones.
Yes. Any other questions?
Okay, if there are no other questions, is there a motion to approve the change orders as presented?
So moved. Second.
Wise, Faltus? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Pete, we now have
You've got
the
one, yeah.
contract for the steel.
Yes, and essentially this one is similar to the prior contracts when the project was bid. You have several contractors that have their own contract. 4G, we clarified some language with them, and this is essentially the approval of their contract, similar to what you've already approved.
This is the last one of the 28 or so that we initially started back in March. So.
Correct.
Any questions?
What language did they want changed, and is this something that we would typically do in a contract, or is there are they asking for something special?
No, it was clarifications on their scope of work. Basically, the bid package scope had some items in there that they wanted clarified in terms of to what extent and who's providing. So that was part of the going back and forth with them.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're squared, we're straight now. Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the contract with 4G Steel Fabrication as presented?
So moved. Second.
Fault is Wise. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Next up is the resolution to formally adopt the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated costs for the owner-provided technology and AV and security portion of the project. We did the bids last week for those, so we just had the public hearing earlier this evening. So this is the formal resolution to adopt and approve everything before we can consider the bids, which Pete's going to speak to here in a minute.
Any questions for Randy? Then we do need a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated costs for the Miller Middle School Technology AV and Security Project.
So moved.
Second.
Stanley Guzlinga. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, Pete, tell us about the bids.
Yes, so this was a bid package that was essentially 2 bid packages that were let out to publicly bid, and One of them was the communication side of the improvements. The other one was safety and security components and installation that would be also part of the improvements for the project. And on the communications bid package, we received 2 bidders on that one. On the safety and security, there were 5 bidders that we had identified, 2 of which submitted a bid on that. So the total amount on bid day for both of those, including their change allowance, is $1,512,529.50, which is under the budget that we had anticipated when we carried out those allowances when we were designing that.
Which is important because there's other technology needs that'll come out of that budget, so.
Correct, yes. So we, these numbers are favorable in terms of what we had on the budget allowance for those owner-provided items.
Pete, there's a significant, I guess, difference in the amounts that we received from those bidders. The scope and everything, scope, quality, everything like that is the same between the 2 bids that we were considering, at least on that AV portion?
Yes. So we met with the apparent low bidder, had a scope review meeting with them to ensure that they understood the scope, they understood the schedule, they understood the quality requirements, and they did pick up everything that was in the documents, and in the follow-up meeting, they were comfortable with their number. I can't speak to why the other bidder had a number like they did. I don't know what their logic was there. However, the low bidder was clear
Meets
on
everything that we need.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that was my question too, Leah, so.
Yeah, essentially the equipment is the same. It's really the installation of, the purchase and installation of that equipment, so.
Are there other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the resolution awarding the contracts for the Miller Middle School Technology AV and security projects? One, the AV project to Bloom.
Correct.
At a total bid of $995,403.50, and the security bid package to Baker Mechanical at a total bid of $517,126 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Stanley Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Is that it for you, Pete?
I think that's it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Good to see y'all again.
Hi, Lynn.
Okay. Is it on?
It's on now.
All right,
Yep.
very good. Okay, so I have some price approvals tonight. The first thing is the adult meal price, which is determined by the USDA. They've increased that for the upcoming school year to $5.14. Then we also are looking at increasing some of our a la carte prices for students and also catering prices for public caterings. And Amy, I guess those are, do you want to, any of them are fine. So we've not increased prices in a few years on catering, so these are the proposed increases for the upcoming school year.
What what is I don't know what it is right now. So what kind of a percentage are we looking at from an increase standpoint on the a la carte?
I didn't do like a percent increase across the board, but kind of just like an item increase based on our cost in those items and then, the labor that it would take to prepare them. So for example, the regular cookies currently sell for $5 per dozen, and I'm proposing we increase by 50 cents a dozen to $5.50. There is the current, you want to go to the current prices on there? So they're both linked here. So here's the current prices, just to the right there, Amy, down. Oh. There you go. So here's our current prices. So you can see the frosted sugar cookies are going to go up by $1. The small round cookies, let's see, pull it up here. Sorry. That's okay. That's okay.
Looks like $1. Okay,
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah. And then you want to go to the a la carte document too. So here is, I did put all prices on one document here, so this is probably a better example. So these are a la carte prices for students, and so you can see things, might be going up by a quarter or 50 cents or no change at all, just kind of depending upon the item. And these, cost increases are kind of driven by food prices and increase in staff labor. And then also, the catering program and the a la carte program that we have are important non-program revenues for the food service department. And these are really important to our budget because we are a community eligibility provision district. So not all of the meals that we are reimbursed for are at the free rate. So the nutrition fund is required to have non-program revenue to offset the cost of those meals that we're not receiving the free reimbursement for. So the increase in the prices here are just to help to continue to offset those community eligibility meals.
And it's been a while since we've increased prices, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe the last time we increased catering prices was 2022. And, I guess we did vet prices like around town with other businesses, and these are still very competitive, so. Any questions?
So what you're saying is we need to offer the catering to help with the budget with the funding you get, because we don't get adequate federal funding for the lunches or breakfast we serve. Is that correct?
It's required with the community eligibility provision that if you're accepting less than 100% free reimbursement, that you have non-program revenue, so non-federal funds coming in to help offset the cost of the meals that we don't receive the federal reimbursement for. So next year we'll claim about 73% of our meals at the free reimbursement rate. So there'll be, 12 or 13% of meals that we will receive paid rate reimbursement for. So the non-program revenue that we have coming in from catering and a la carte help to cover the cost of those meals that we receive only the paid rate of reimbursement.
So instead of charging students who can afford to pay for their lunch, we're offsetting that with.
Correct. Yes, correct. Yeah, without subsidizing the meals with the free reimbursement that we're already receiving. Yeah.
Do you have businesses concerned with us offering catering services and competing against others?
No, I haven't ever been approached with concerns of that type.
What percent of our catering is actually consumed inside the school district versus outside of the school district?
That's a good question. I haven't ever broken it down, but just, off the top of my head, I would say 50 or 60% of our business is probably staff or, like we call it, other entity catering. So like other public entity caterings that, and then I would say probably 40% would be public purchases. That's just probably my best ballpark guess, yes.
The cookies have quite a reputation.
Yeah. We are well known for cookies, yep. Any other questions?
Zach, you good? You look like you had something. No? Okay. If there are no other questions, we need a motion to approve the adult meal price increase, a la carte price changes, and catering price changes for the 26-27 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Wise, Faltus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay. Amy, is Matt Gillespie on? He should be.
All right. Good afternoon, board. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, we can.
Okay, so good afternoon. This is Matt Gillespie at Piper Sandler Des Moines. I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, I can't share my screen, so maybe if I can, actually, if you can.
If I could have Amy on to open that board packet.
Yep, that's just fine. And I can just kind of guide you through it.
Yep.
If you would. So as you are aware, board, I hope, we were taking bids today for the sale of general obligation school bonds. We did that today at 1:30 p.m. We were asking the bidders on the first page, if you can see that yet, the report of sale. At the top of that page, we took bids initially for $29,100,000 of the voter approved bonds. When the bids came in, we determined that we would increase that sizing to $33,375,000, which you'll see in a few minutes. The rates were attractive, but they have been tending on the way up, although certainly none of us have a crystal ball to know for sure where they will be next year or the year after when the remaining bonds are sold. So rather than take that risk on some of the principal, we did choose to issue a little bit larger amount of principal today. Also in the heading, there is a note that says S&P, that's Standard & Poor's. So Standard & Poor's analysts did interview your staff about a month ago or so. They take some history of your budget performances, budget policies, community information, property values, all kinds of stuff about the community. Take that to a committee and they decide what rating they will assign, and they do that literally by voting. And they assigned an A rating to the district's general obligation bond credit. And then in that same heading, you see that there is an insured rating of AA. So the winning bidder, and actually all the bidders, or both bidders, decided to use bond insurance. So what happens is that they take some of the fee that they charge you and they pay that to this insurance company as a premium, and then they get to use the insurance company's higher rating, AA. So that's 3 notches above the school district's rating. And effectively, if that works, which since we aren't doing two things simultaneously, we never can really show you that for sure. But it does seems to work, and that's that it buys down interest rates, kind of like pain points in a way. But if you look at this page here, you can see the bids that were received. The winning bid from Robert W. Baird and Company in Milwaukee, and we determine who the winning bid is by the kind of blue-gray number that's sort of towards the bottom middle of that section, 4.0731. And then that compares to right below that, 4.2812, which is from JP Morgan Securities in New York. And then once we did the resizing, so in other words, changing it from 29.1 to 33.3 million, that actually changed the interest, the true interest rate to 4.043. So a little bit slightly higher going out to that hundred thousandths place. So very, very minor there. If you go to the next page, Randy, you'll see here the sources and uses of just today alone. So on another page, we're going to see kind of the big picture of the entire financing, what's happened already, and what still is yet to happen. But this page is just showing us just today, so just the bonds that were issued today. So you see there's $33,375,000 of bond principal. The way that bidder structured their bid, they're paying you a $395,000 premium up front. So of the $33.77 million net from the bonds, you are paying the underwriter's discount, which is the fee that winning bidder charged, including the insurance premium, which you can see that there. That total cost for that $487,972. That was actually pretty much in line with what we expected that to be. I know that seems like a very large number, which it is. That's because it's a very large borrowing. Unlike earlier today, another school district, Missouri Valley, they were selling sales tax bonds, and the underwriter's discount on that issuance was about 130% of what I expected it to be, so higher than we expected. And that's, I presume, a result of some of the laws that just recently changed with sales tax and the uncertainty behind those. But that's the underwriter's discount. The cost of issuance, $245,443. That includes your bond attorney, which is Allers & Cooney in Des Moines, Standard & Poor's, Piper Sandler, the company I work for, United Missouri Bank as the paying agent and registrar. All of those costs are included in that number. And then what's left over to spend, and again, this is just from today alone, $33,037,168. So you'll add that to the prior bond monies that you have, plus the future bond monies that you get to fund the entire project. Also on this page towards the top, you see it notes the dated date. That's August 3rd. So you did receive today already what's called a good faith deposit. That's kind of like earnest money when you buy a house. And the winning bidder did wire that to the district. That was $291,000. So the balance of the money that they owe you, basically the $33 million, that'll come to you then on August 3rd. So you'll get that in a wire, you can invest it, and then start spending that to continue paying architect's fees and construction costs, etc. On the next page, at the very top of that page, it just says bond debt service. So that's just kind of a clean version of the amortization schedule. You see the bonds go out to 2046, just 20 years. That's the legal maximum length that general obligation bonds can extend to in Iowa for schools. But at the bottom of that page, there's a note that does say that the bonds become callable June 1 of 2031. So it's at that point or any time after that, with 30 days notice, that the school district could refinance the bonds if it's mathematically feasible to do that. You could restructure them if you needed to change, kind of the positioning of principal, et cetera, probably most likely to issue more bonds at some point in the future. Or you could just pay them off, and you could pay them off in $5,000 increments. Or, of course, you don't do anything, and you just keep making the scheduled payments. But once you get to June of 2031, those different things could happen at any time with 30 days notice if it's favorable for the district to do that. If you go to the next page, that page at the top just says bond pricing. So here in the red box, you see the rate, it's the interest rate, or what we also call the coupon, the yield and the price, but it's the yield that we want to look at because that's what we can compare apples to apples. And that's done at the bottom of that page in the little boxes comparing reoffering yields. So you see here, I just pulled out each of the 5-year yields just as a comparison. So you're listed there as the first one, 2.7 to 430. And you see just a month ago, Dallas Center Grimes, they also sold bonds. All of these schools, by the way, were selling bonds in excess of $10 million. So they were all what we would call not bank qualified. So they would all literally then be apples to apples as far as, the credit and structure, et cetera. So a month ago at Dallas Center Grimes, 264 to 4 1/8. And also just, I think the day before that was
Clear Creek Amana, you can see they had quite a bit higher rates, 282 to 425, closer than to what your rates were today. And then your neighbors to the east, East Marshall, 2 months ago, were selling general obligation bonds, and their rates ranged from 53 to 425. And then 4 months ago at Bondor and Farrar, 9 months ago at Garner, Hayfield, Ventura. And then a year ago, you can see at Lamar's, they had rates that were quite a bit higher at 287, ranging out to 486. So since a year ago, we've seen those rates come down a little bit and kind of stay fairly consistent in a range there, but they have trended upward just in the last month or so. So that was one of the reasons why we still wanted to try to capture where it is in case those rates continue upward. And your guess is as good as mine as if that's actually going to happen. Generally, we can kind of think that 50% of the time you're going to be right, and 50% of the time you're going to be wrong. No matter who you are or what your level of intelligence is, it doesn't necessarily always go the way we expect things to go. The page after that, I'm going to skip for tonight, although if you want to ask questions about it, we can absolutely come back to it. But that page is talking about sales tax and the change to the revenue that the district could expect to receive since the legislature changed the law related to sales tax. So again, we could come back to this page if you do want to talk a little bit more about it. But I want to go to the next page, which at the top left-hand corner of that page says estimated sources and uses of funds. So this is now bringing the whole big picture into one piece of paper. The items that you see that are shaded and then have the text in green, I believe it's green, I'm colorblind, but I think it's green. Those things are the bond issuances that you've now completed. So those are facts. We know that those things are true, whereas the remaining bonds, which is currently, we think that you will probably issue sales tax bonds next year, and then the remainder of your general obligation bonds in maybe 2028 or 2029, just depending on how your cash flow goes and how the construction progress takes. But those things are certainly fluid. We can make changes to those if we need to. So those are estimates, but the items that are shaded are accurate. But the two things that I want to point out here, basically at the top of the left box in the little yellow, we're trying to fund a target of $106 million. So if that ends up being the true cost of your project, all of these different bond issuances that are coming in here, ultimately, if the project ends up being a little bit less than that, or a little bit more than that, we can make adjustments to either the sales tax borrowing or the general obligation bonds. Although the general obligation bonds, we wouldn't increase them because this is showing you the balance of those bonds, but we could decrease them. If you don't need quite as much money, it certainly is possible that with the remaining part of the general obligation bonds, the amount could be decreased, which would also result in lower taxes, which would be nice for those people that are concerned about that. But the other thing I want to point out is where that kind of blue line is pointing. So it's pointing to the number 5,670,000. I'm going to explain that number on another page, but just keep that in mind. That there is perhaps $5.6 million coming out of your pocket, although it's not coming out of your pocket as a waste. But just keep that number in mind, and we'll go to the next page. The next page then is still showing you the general obligation bonds. So on the left side of the page, that's what happened today. And you can see in the yellow box that's just to the left of the dark line going up and down the middle, we pushed as much principal as we could into the fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 28 payments to consume the $2.70 levy, which is the maximum levy that can be utilized. And we did that with at least the current intention that the remaining bonds would be sold in the spring of 2029. So then on the right side of the page, there's an estimate for that. And you see there that would then pick up and continue that roughly $2.70 levy going forward. Although on the right side of the page, in that yellow column where you see the levy continuing at 269, basically all the way out to the end, in reality, your property value will change year to year. Generally, it will go up, although not always. So that 269 is very likely to drop to 260 and then 285 or 255 and 230, and eventually get down below $2 and maybe down as low as maybe $1.50 or so by the time the final payments are being made on the bonds. Now, again, there is that call feature on the left side of the page that you see at 2031. That's where that red dashed line shows you when the bonds could begin to be paid off early, refinanced, restructured, etc. And at the very bottom of that page, the little table at the bottom left, that's what you guys did earlier this year. That was the tiny, well, not a tiny number, but in the bigger picture, tiny, just one maturity, 3.6 million that you needed to issue to consume the taxes that you had levied for fiscal year 26. So that was issued and you've already paid that off. You paid that off 2 weeks ago. But it's the next page that I want to kind of take just a couple minutes to talk about. And this isn't really directly related to the sale from today, but it certainly is related to the overall funding. So here what you see are the sales tax bonds. On the left side of the page, that's the bonds that were issued last year. So last May, a year ago now. So that again is, we already know that. That's history and that's kind of written in stone, so to speak. Although those bonds do have a call date as well, 2034. But it's the right side of the page that you have not seen before. You have seen the right side before, but it didn't look like this. And that's because previously you were going to be getting more sales tax revenue. And then the legislature changed that a month ago when they altered the law related to sales tax and a couple other items as well. So what you are going to what's going to happen now is that you will get less sales tax money between now and 2031, and then you will start to grow again, but we probably will not be back to the same total revenue level that we are today until probably sometime in fiscal year 34 or fiscal year 35. So it's going to take about a decade for the per student revenue for sales tax across the state to get back to today's level. In the meantime, the state is diverting more and more money each year until they get to 25% of all the sales tax money, which will happen in fiscal year 31. That money is being diverted away from schools, used for infrastructure, things like what you're doing here with this project, and it will be instead credited back to schools, although not necessarily pro rata for the district that gave up the money, but it will be credited back to schools in a property tax credit. So it was intended by the legislature to reduce property taxes. I'm not certain that that's going to be completely successful because many schools who could have borrowed more money now can't, and so therefore they have to either raise their taxes by increasing their voted PEPAL or perhaps having voted general obligation bonds to fund some of the projects that sales tax was going to fund before that revenue is cut. And whether the district increases or extends their voted PEPAL or votes a general obligation bond, those things are property tax increases. So there could be a little bit of a property tax decrease on one hand, but then a property tax increase that will probably be much more significant on a per property owner point of view for those districts that need to do that. So I don't want to say it backfired because that's not necessarily true, but certainly it doesn't necessarily work exactly like the legislature thought that it would. But the big picture here is that because you will have less money to use to repay debt, you have to stretch the remaining sales tax bonds that you need to issue over a longer period of time. Now, this is just an estimate, what we have here. Ultimately, when we get to next year, if next year is the time frame for issuing those bonds, we may be able to squeeze this into, a year or two shorter, but we also might have to stretch it out a year or two longer than what you see here. But right now, this is going out, you see on the right side of the page, out through fiscal year 50. So that's adding about 5 years to the repayment of this debt that you wouldn't have needed a month ago before the legislature changed that. And of course, that adds, a pretty significant amount of interest costs, but it is what it is. The legislature made the change to fund the projects that you already have, in process. That's what's going to have to happen. You have to stretch that debt out. You're in relatively good company, if that makes you feel any better, just knowing that there's probably about 35 other districts that are like you, that they're in the middle of a project, so they're having to do this. And then, of course, every other school, if and when they decide that they might want to or need to borrow from sales tax, they'll have to stretch their debt out longer than they otherwise would have, just because they don't have the same annual amount to make those payments. But one other thing on this page, if you look at the fourth from the right column, and that's where there's that blue parenthesis kind of pointing to the left, and those numbers are shaded. And that first number is negative 1.1 billion, and then 840,000, etc. What that is, again, it's an estimate currently. It may not need to be that much. It's possible that it doesn't need to be anything at all, but that seems unlikely. But it could be certainly less than what you see there, but it also could be more than what you see there. That is an escrow that probably will have to be funded out of your pocket, so to speak. Let me explain that in just a second. But the reason that you would need to do it is because the bonds that you already have outstanding that you issued last year, and then prior to that you had some bonds existing, you can't issue more new bonds unless we can prove that the total payments combined provide for you having at least $1.25 in revenue coming in for every dollar that you owe to make a payment. We call that coverage, and we say that you need to have 1.25 times coverage. Well, if I didn't have those amounts in that shaded box, and you see there is no principal being repaid on the new bond, this is jumping out a year from now and estimating what that bond might look like. But even without interest being structured in that period for fiscal year 32, just the interest alone on the remaining sales tax bonds that would be needed would actually, when added to your existing debt, would drag that number on the right column down below 1.25. And it actually would draw it down at some points below 1.1. So it's not that you wouldn't have enough money to make the payment, but you'd have barely enough money to make the payment. And you can't do it anyway, even if you would have the money, because we have to be able to prove that 1.25 number. So at the time that those bonds are sold, they'll make this obviously much more accurate. And that amount that you see there, which totals the 5.6 million, that's the number I told you to kind of remember. So that money would be coming out of your pocket, but it's not like you'd be wasting the money. It's actually just kind of making a prepayment. So that's money you would be paying anyway on the future bond payments that you have to make. But instead of just waiting until the bond payments are due, over the next 5 or 6 years, you'd be putting a portion of the payment into an escrow, because once that money is in the escrow, it's basically what we call defeased, and we can then count it as though it has been paid. Even though the money wouldn't technically have paid the bond yet, it would be sitting in an escrow. We would know that the money is there and that the bond payment is covered, or a portion of it, and that would allow us to get to that 1.25 number. Now, before the legislature made the change to the law, I did estimate that you may still have had to do this, but the last estimate that I had made was that this would only cause you to have to put in about $400,000 into an escrow. Now you see there that estimate $5.6 million. Now again, let me reiterate, it's not $5.6 million that you lose and you're never getting it back and it didn't go towards any good purpose. You're just kind of prepaying debt that you already have outstanding. You're just proving that you have the money to do it, is what would be happening. And if you look on the cash flow, which we're not going to spend a lot of time on, but that begins on page 10. Actually, I'm sorry. Actually, I did not include it in here. But it would appear that you will have the money to do that. It cannot come from the bond proceeds. It has to come from money out of your own pocket. But the cash flow that we have, which combines your sales tax couple, shows you making all these bond payments, but also buying buses and technology, doing the routine stuff that you do. That cash flow suggests that you'll have the money to do this. So it's not going to be a problem. It's just kind of maybe a nuisance, if nothing else. So just keep in mind that may be necessary next year to a bigger or smaller degree. And then there's the timeline on the next page, which is just showing you for the most part towards the end of that timeline that at your next meeting on July 20th, that's when you will pass the rest of the legal paperwork. And then on August 3rd, this transaction will close. And that's when, as I said earlier, the rest of the bond money will come into your account and you can start using that money to pay construction costs, architect's fees, et cetera, et cetera. And then the last part of the packet is the bond rating report from Standard & Poor's. I'm not going to take time to go through the report itself, but I just wasn't sure if Randy had provided a copy to you board members. So I thought you might be interested in seeing that. It does usually says some good things about the district. It's interesting. Might put you to sleep, but that might be helpful for somebody tonight. So I'll stop talking there and go back maybe to the first page, Randy. And are there any questions of the board? Once I have questions answered, I'm going to lead you through the resolution. But before we go to that point, questions that the board has about any of these worksheets, the process that we went through today, what's left to happen, the sales tax changes, anything you may want to ask questions about before we go to the award resolution.
So I have a question. If the legislature had not acted with regards to the property tax relief measures that they passed, would that have changed the rating we would have received on this particular issue, in your opinion, or not?
No, it would not have changed the rating on today's issue, because today's issue is backed by property taxes, which they're general obligation. It definitely could have changed the rating on your outstanding sales tax bonds that you issued last year, and potentially could affect the rating next year when you come back to issue the sales tax bonds. What Standard & Poor's has done, and to some degree Moody's, but the great majority of school bonds in Iowa are rated by Standard & Poor's, just generally because it tends to be a little bit cheaper. But what they did do was about, I think it was maybe 24 hours, 48 hours after the legislature took action, and they found out about it at Standard & Poor's, they published a report that is out there, it's in the public. They are putting 135, 140 Iowa schools, including Marshalltown, on rating downgrade watch. Now, that doesn't mean anything's happening, but they're monitoring it. They're reviewing everyone. Because of the lower amount of revenue, obviously that could potentially impact a school or some schools' ability to repay the debt they already have. So what they have been doing over the last couple weeks is they've been reviewing a few schools each day. They call us generally to give us the update. So far, we haven't had any schools that actually got downgraded. However, they haven't gone through the list, and I'm pretty confident that there's going to be maybe, I'm not sure, but I would say 4 or 5 schools that probably will get their rating downgraded. Now, that would not be Marshalltown currently, because the amount of debt that you have right now that's repaid from sales tax is not anywhere near, in trouble or anywhere near the limits. So you wouldn't get downgraded today. Next year, when you issue the sales tax bonds, depending on what's happening in the economy, what's happening with sales tax, by then, what's happening with other districts, et cetera, there is definitely a possibility, at least, that you could have your sales tax rating. They're separate from the GO bond. Those are 2 different credits. It's possible that you or other schools could have their sales tax rating downgraded for this reason. Does that answer the question you had?
Yes. For each level of downgrade, what is the additional interest cost associated with that downgrade?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to say, because on any given day, it depends on different things in the market. It depends on who is in the market. So, for example, today you had Robert Baird and JP Morgan bidding. On tomorrow there could be 3 or 4 different bidders bidding. The next day there may be only one bidder. On any given day, we don't know for sure. But if we could look at it and just say, what would happen in a normal world? We don't live in a normal world, as you probably already know. We haven't lived in a normal world for many, many years, probably 15 years or more from an interest rate standpoint. But generally speaking, each notch that rating goes up or down is probably going to impact you or the issuer, the city, the school, the county that's issuing the debt, by somewhere between 5 and 10 basis points. Maybe more. If you get closer to a triple B, then it would actually become even more noticeable. So what that means is that, let's say that a rating that we're talking about is 4%, and the school or the city or the county went from A to A minus. That means that might turn into 3.9 to it would go up. It would go from 4% to 4.05 to 4.10, and then if the rating went down another notch, it might go up to 4.10 to 4.20. And then if you got into that triple B category, which would be 3 notches below where you are, so I don't think there's much likelihood that that's going to happen to Marshalltown, but there are a couple school districts in Iowa, unfortunately, at that level, then the differential would be even more significant. Because if you get below triple B, which there is no school district in Iowa that's at that level, but if you were to get that low, then it becomes junk bonds rated, and of course that would be a much, much higher rating. But as long as we can keep these ratings at triple B or better, and of course we really don't want to go below A minus, to be honest, and we rarely see an Iowa school go below A minus, but we want to keep it at that level. But if we went below triple B, that would be a much more serious situation. And you wouldn't go up either, to be quite honest, very much. Most schools in Iowa, an A plus, one notch above where Marshalltown was today. A plus would be about the highest rating we really would expect to see for a school in Iowa for general obligation bonds. Even though the ratings then do go to double A minus, double A plus, and then triple A, there are a handful of schools that can get to the double A minus. But for the most part, A and A plus are the most common ratings we see for schools here in Iowa.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Any other questions? Sounds pretty quiet.
Nope, it's pretty quiet.
That means that everybody's been listening. I like to hear that. Of course, you can continue to ask questions anytime. You know, if you have questions tomorrow, a month from now, 6 months from now, you know, just pass any questions that you might have to Randy or Theron, and they can typically kind of find me wherever I am around the state at any point in time. So don't hesitate to ask questions anytime, especially if they're questions from your citizens, your patrons, because we do not want misinformation to be out in the community. But the next step would be to pass the award resolution, which is I'm going to paraphrase for you. I think it's the next item on your agenda. Is that correct, Randy? Next item on your agenda?
Yep, it is.
Yep. So I'm going to paraphrase the resolution. It's acceptable for me to do that. We just need to have one of the school board members so move what I say. Another board member needs to second the motion, and then you are required to have a roll call vote. So the resolution before you is directing the sale of $33,375,000 of general obligation school bonds, Series 2026B, to Robert W. Baird and Company of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
So moved. Second.
Faltis, Wise, roll call. Stanley,
Yes.
Goslinga,
Yes.
Faltis,
Yes.
Heitman,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Morales is absent. Wall,
Abstain.
abstain. Motion carries 5-0, one abstention.
Okay, that's all that you need to do tonight for regards to the bonds. Again, thank you for letting me participate via Zoom. I actually did intend to come to the meeting tonight in person, but I didn't even get the information back to Randy until right before 5. It's been kind of crazy here, as you can imagine, really for the last month with these silly changes to the sales tax. But again, if you have questions at any time, let us know. Randy and Theron, if you have questions, let me know. I know, Theron, you earlier today you had some more questions about the sales tax. If those didn't get answered tonight, feel free to send me an email, or we can talk in the next week or two and review some things as well. Good luck with the continuation of your project. And we'll talk to you guys probably later this fall as we start to discuss the sales tax bonds for next year. So thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Policies.
Yeah, we have two policies up for first reading. These are the two policies that Anel spoke to at our last meeting. 104 anti-bullying harassment policy, 104 R2 anti-bullying harassment policy, and that one was relative to students and student handbook provisions. Relatively minor changes in definition for these. So we did not make any changes beyond when they were presented to you at the last meeting. I would recommend the board approve the first reading of these two policies and waive the second reading.
Any questions for Dr. Schutte? Or I guess Anel, since they're her. If not, is there a motion to amend 104 and 104 R2 and to waive the second reading?
So moved. Second.
Stanley Faltis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Anel. Sarah's got a couple of initial reviews.
Yes. Policy 401.10. It is credit cards. No changes, mark as reviewed. 401.10R, another one on credit cards. Also no changes, mark as reviewed. And the last one is 401.12, employee use of cell phones. No changes and mark as reviewed.
Any questions for Sarah? Then those 3 policies will be marked as reviewed.
We've got 3 policy adjustments from food service. We've got 705.01 purchasing and bidding, 705.01 R1 purchase bidding, suspension and debarment of vendors and contractors procedure regulation. And we've got 705.0 R3 purchasing bidding regulation. I believe all 3 of these had changes that are reflecting current federal and state laws. And unless you have any questions for Lynn regarding those, we would recommend bringing those back for first reading at the next meeting.
Okay. Are there any questions? Hearing none. 705.1, 705.1R1, and 705R3 will come back the next meeting for a first reading to amend. And
we had one technology-related policy adjustment, 712 terminology or technology and data security. I don't know, Amy, do you have anything to share on this one?
It's pretty straightforward. They just wanted to mostly say that you and a designee would be in charge of the procedures regarding it.
You and I?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that would come back for a first reading as well. And the rest of these are all under Randy's purview.
Yeah. 203 Board of Directors, Conflict of Interest, 206.03 Secretary Treasurer, and 206.04 Treasurer. Just some minor language updates to those to reflect some recent legislative changes and also best practices. Same thing with 701.02 Transfer of Funds, 701.03 Financial Records, and 701.05 Fiscal Management. Again, during IASB's reviews, just some minor tweaks for law changes and, again, best practices with that. 704.02 Debt Management, 704.03. Those are legal updates to those policies with regards to the laws around how districts manage their debt and invest funds under Chapter Code 12. 705.01 Purchasing Bidding. Again, that's federal funds, so there's some updated federal guidance with that. And then 705.04 Public Purpose. That one was, let me click on that one. That one was just some minor language changes with that, adding in treasurer in coordination with superintendent with that. 705.05 federal awards.
That's a new policy.
That is a new policy, yep, and that's related to CFR, so that's federal laws around grants and federal funding that's received, so lots of updates to that and basically it's just a lot of citations to federal code. 706.04 time and effort reporting. This one is new. Again, this deals with federal requirements. This has been a big push from the Department of Ed. With federal fundings, any staff that are paid with federal funds, there's time and effort reporting that's required from the federal level. And the Department of Ed has really been pushing on districts to make sure that they're compliant with this. So this is updating that policy to reflect those changes. 707.01, presentation and publication of financial information. That one is mainly just, again, some minor language changes, and also some combination with some other policies, just trying to condense some of those policies out there. This one references the annual organizational meeting and approving the financial statements each year, which we already do. And then 708, care, maintenance, and disposal of district records, and 708 R1. This was the one that we combined. So we had 708 before, and then we had 708 R1. The policy primer combined the two into one policy, so we'll be recommending doing that for simplicity's sake. So we'll combine 708 and 708 R1 into one policy under 708, and then we'll ask to delete 708 R1 at the next meeting. I think that's all.
Questions for Randy or for Dr. Schutte? Then all of those will come back either to adopt or amend or, I guess, delete in the case of 708R1.
Yep.
Randy, just a note, the title and the actual policies don't match of this line item in the agenda,
On the board agenda?
on the board agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, Maria didn't get all the policy primer ones added.
Well, and we didn't look at those policies at all.
Oh, yeah. Looks like
I don't
that's
know
from
if
the
we're
last
just
meeting.
off
Yeah,
a meeting or what, but
looks like it. Yep.
I caught up. I got you now.
Yep.
Abby, any additional communication items for us this evening? Okay. Any committee reports? I assume the answer is no. Let's see, reminders. Looks like I've got initial review policies for the July 13th meeting. If you are going to the chamber dinner, that's this week, Thursday. What time, Dr. Schutte?
Social is 5 to 6. I think dinner and program starts at 6.
Okay. So,
who do you have on the list?
And that's at Midnight Garden. I think I listed it in the news and notes.
let's see.
Did I?
I think you did. Da, da, da. I don't.
Should have been the events. The event one.
Remember, there's 8 pages.
Or did I not?
You sent it someplace
I did too.
because I remember seeing it.
I read it too.
I can tell you here in a minute, I think.
I think it was in the board when we were talking about board.
I just want to make sure.
The board assessment. Over here. It's
I've got Anel, Jackie, Leah.
Leah, Maria, Sean, Anel, Shauna. So there's 6.
Yep.
You're on there.
Yeah, and I think I indicated that we've got room for 2 more if someone decides they can and want to go.
Okay. Any items for a future agenda anyone would like to see? Okay. What have we done this evening to improve education for the students in Marshalltown?
Significant progress towards getting additional funds for the Miller project.
Mm-hmm. We've now approved all of the contracts for the Miller project.
Mm-hmm.
I think the health curriculum, given that we've not had a formal health curriculum, I think adopting that will hopefully be a big deal for kids and for staff who are teaching those courses.
Okay. The communications and technology is a big deal because even though it's going to take 3 years to get that fully implemented, then Miller will be on the same page as all of the other buildings as it relates to safety, security, and communications. With audio enhancement and everything else.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll take about a 5-minute break so everybody can, not everybody, but almost everybody can go home. And then we'll go into a closed session.